What is up there everyone, it's the guy from the Gamertag here, and today I wanted to talk about Battlefield 4 and whether the gunfights in the game are getting a little bit too complex. Now we already know that Battlefield 4 aims to have some relatively realistic physics. You've got bullets drop and bullet travel time, but you also have bullet bloom, so the longer you hold down the trigger, the wider your actual shot spread goes, because in Battlefield, when you are aiming down sight, it's not dead accurate like in Call of Duty, it's actually still like a hipfire spread in a way. You've got a small spread and it gets worse when you're hipfiring, but as you continue shooting, the spread actually gets larger and it's called bullet bloom. And I just find that generally, especially after the last couple of patches where they've been changing a lot of things to do with attachments, it's made the gunfights really odd and complex, and you can't always predict what your weapon's going to do. I was trying to use the QBB light machine gun on the community map, and I just found it very difficult to hit people. I'd find that if I just tried to hold the trigger down just a little bit, my bullets would start missing, even though my accuracy was actually dead on them. And it just made it very difficult and quite confusing, and I just found it a little bit irritating because I just felt that there's a few too many factors for you to try and manage, especially if you're a little bit more of a casual player. If you just want to jump on, shoot some people in the face and then get off, it's not very friendly for those kind of players, because you're just kind of having to micromanage every gunfight, because you have to take into account the bullet drop, you have to take into account the bullet travel time, you have to take into account the recoil, you have to then take into account the bullet bloom if you keep the trigger held down. And I just find that this is slightly too many factors if you just want to get on and play. I find that you kind of have to know the stats, you have to know exactly how every attachment affects the weapon, and it's just getting a bit too complicated in my opinion. I liked in Battlefield 3, it felt like you were just accounting for the recoil, the bullet drop and the bullet travel time, and that was fine. The way the time to kill worked was absolutely perfect in my opinion. The game felt really satisfying because of it. Whereas Battlefield 4, although it does feel satisfying and it is still fun to play, it can just be a bit frustrating when you just keep finding yourself missing targets because the weapon is doing so many different things and you can't quite account for all of them. And it's getting to the point where you almost might as well just use semi-automatic fire modes, because at the rate it's going, your bullet bloom is so increasing so quickly that you can't actually do anything and you're barely hitting your target, and it just gets quite frustrating. And I found it a real problem on the slow RPM weapons like the G36, the QBB weapons. I just find myself unable to kill people with them because I'm dealing so little damage, because so many of my shots are now missing that I can't do anything, and a lot because of the changes to the foregrips, it means that most of them are useless. So it's just getting to the point where it's like, this is getting way too complicated, and I really think they should simplify it down, maybe in a future patch or just for the next Battlefield game. I don't think bullet bloom needs to be removed from the game. I think it's a good mechanic, but I think it's gotten way too extreme. I think the attachments in the game should be benefits only. If they're going to have a drawback, like with the suppressor's got a good drawback because that kind of makes sense, because you don't want someone who's running around invisible on the minimap and has no other penalties. But I think attachments like foregrips, they should be a bonus, and the only drawback they should maybe have is they increase your aiming down sight time simply because it makes your gun heavier. I don't think it should be that it does one good thing and a bad thing, because then it's just kind of confusing, because you've got to know exactly how it affects every weapon, and some people just don't want to go that far in depth with the game. I watch people at Level Cap and he goes through all the stats of all the attachments, and even watching that I still don't quite get what each attachment does, because it has so many small factors in it, and I can't quite outfit my weapons correctly because all of these attachments do so many different things. I can't work out exactly what's good and bad, and so I end up just going with whatever I feel like, and generally it's not working properly, and it's just gotten a little bit too far in my opinion. I think they should keep the bullet bloom but just make it a less excessive effect on the gun, because you're already taking into account the recoil, and the bullet drop and bullet travel time is already something that is fairly complex to deal with in the first place. You've got to know exactly how fast your bullet is travelling and how much it's going to drop during that travel. That takes a fair bit of skill to actually get used to it if you're using an assault rifle or an SMG or something at longer ranges, which I think then having extra bullet bloom to take into account as well just makes it almost impossible, which means realistically the best gunfights are close range gunfights, but generally due to the map design your gunfights are at longer ranges. So it's just kind of creating this domino effect of the fact that it just makes it extremely difficult to use a lot of the weapons in my opinion. But I just want to see what you guys think. I think it's getting way too complex, they're adding in too many factors, and it's just making it too extreme in all the gunfights. But anyway, I do hope you've enjoyed. This has been the guy from the Gamertag, and I'll see you on another video.